complete plan for dealing with the problem. And it's not a new problem. I mean, we've known about this for a couple of years. All of us have known about it. But in our system of government, it's the president's job to lay out a specific plan for what we should do about it. And it's our job then to say, no, we don't like that, we're going to change this, and respond to that. This is not a complete plan to me. What's missing are three things. Number one, first, we need to secure the 320 miles of border in the Rio Grande Valley where a majority, at least, maybe most of the children are coming. This is an extraordinary, you say unprecedented surge of illegal immigrants, unaccompanied children. We need an extraordinary response. The quickest way to deal with it and to send a message back in those three countries is those children are coming home. Second, we need to make it as clear as we can, as rapidly as we can, that what will happen to these children if they come to our country is they'll be treated with respect and humanely and sent home, taken home, as soon as we responsibly and safely can do it. And number three, we need to know from the president what changes he wants to make in the 2008 law that apparently is the source of a good deal of the problem.
It is fair to say that for the most part, Senate hearings are somewhat tedious affairs where most Americans wait for the cliff notes or the highlight version. But during that recent session of the Senate Appropriations Committee and that appearance from Senator Lamar Alexander, an immigration bombshell dropped that did not escape the notice of one state representative seeking to unseat Mr. Alexander in the state's August 7th GOP primary. Let's welcome into MidPoint Tennessee State Representative and U.S. Senate candidate Joe Carr joins us today. Mr. Carr, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Representative, first of all, your reaction as soon as you heard that, I can only imagine that from some people sitting in the gallery and from some elected officials to basically hear Lamar Alexander say, we've known about this for years, and to be sitting on it just had to strike a nerve that just sits with you to this day.
Well, that was a stunning admission and a stunning development that Senator Alexander would have said that he's known about this for 2 years. And then, in spite of his admission about knowing it for 2 years, did two things. Number one, ignored a letter from Immigration Customs Enforcement officials saying that if they voted yes on the amnesty bill, Senate Bill 744 last year, that it would perpetuate or create this crisis that we now have on our southern border. So Lamar Alexander did two things. Number one, he ignored ICE officials in an official letter saying that this crisis would occur if he voted for Senate Bill 744. And then 30 days later, he went along with Barack Obama, Harry Reid, and the Democrats in voting for amnesty that's contained in Senate Bill 744. And so now, having known about it for 2 years and ignored an official letter from ICE, we now find that he's surprised that we've got this border crisis when he's known about it by his own admission for 2 years.
Was it even more surprising perhaps to hear him say basically that we don't have to deal with this, it's up to the president to do something, bring it to us, and then we'll respond? It seems to some people as if you're an elected official, you need to respond at all times and you need to be in front of the issues that are affecting your constituency.
Well, that is surprising probably to those outside of Tennessee, but for Lamar Alexander, for the last 5.5, 6 years, he's shown a propensity to allow Barack Obama, Harry Reid, and Chuck Schumer to lead him around by the nose, whether it's amnesty for illegals, voting yes on cloture for Obamacare, raising taxes, or voting yes on cloture to take away veterans' benefits. Lamar Alexander has historically voted more with the Democrats than he has with the Republicans. So for those of us here in Tennessee, this wasn't so surprising, but it was deeply disappointing that he admitted that knowing about this for 2 years did nothing except provide amnesty and provide a window to perpetuate and accelerate a problem that we now know has existed for 2 years.
In your opinion, is what we're seeing here part of what some have called almost a waffling on the Republican side over the years? Because, of course, you're going after Lamar Alexander because he will go for amnesty at this point. But basically, a lot of Republicans who said, okay, let's vote here, let's go with the president, let's wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. Now, that would seem to me to be the biggest problem here that we're facing.
Well, what we've got is John McCain and Lindsey Graham and Lamar Alexander and these guys saying we need to give the president a blank check on this problem to solve this problem so we don't have our fingerprints on it, because you got to understand the reason the establishment in D.C., the establishment Republicans in D.C. want this to go away is because the United States Chamber of Commerce is yanking their chain on this particular issue. And the problem is we've got 58 million American adults who are out of work right now. And every year we have almost 2.4 million legal immigrants come to the United States. You put on top of that all the hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants come to the United States, and it's designed to suppress the American worker's ability to climb out of that low income, lower middle income area and produce a working living wage. And so the United States Chamber of Commerce, at the behest of Lamar Alexander and others, is determined that we need an oversupply of labor so we can suppress wages.
Have there been any ripple effects from the border crossings into Tennessee?
We have seen border crossings ripple into Tennessee for years. As a matter of fact, the reason I ran and was elected in the Tennessee General Assembly in 2008 was specifically on the illegal immigration issue in Tennessee, and I'm glad to say that I am the author and architect of every major piece of illegal immigration law that we have on the books, whether it's mandatory E-Verify or whether it's no state taxpayer benefits for illegals or no sanctuary cities, identity theft and fraud, what have you. Tennessee has some of the strongest enforceable illegal immigration laws in the country, and what we want to do is we want to partner with the federal government in enforcing these laws. And to that point, Senator Jeff Sessions has a wonderful layout of a plan about what we need to do to secure the border, what we need to do to deal with those illegals who are here, and the states need to be able to partner with the federal government in implementing this plan. And Republicans need to understand that we need to start deporting those who are here illegally. And that's a word that Republicans, especially establishment Republicans, don't like. But if we want to enforce the border, we've got to deport those who are found illegally and get them back to their country of origin.
Is it your opinion then, and you mentioned this, the D word, the deportation word, perhaps in your opinion and those of many others, that Republicans, Democrats, and whomever it is need to grow a spine perhaps and at least face up to the fact that the deportation word is going to be on their record, it's something you're going to have to use, and it's the only way to solve this crisis, in your opinion?
Well, it's certainly a tool in the toolbox, but we've got to use that tool because it's a very effective tool. And we are the only civilized country in the world that doesn't deport those who come to our country illegally to take advantage of those benefits that they otherwise wouldn't be entitled to. The United States of America gives $4.2 billion in child tax credits every year to the parents of illegal aliens, illegal aliens who are here unlawfully. And so all I'm saying is that the rule of law says that everybody is treated equally and fairly under the law. The Constitution says our laws shall be faithfully upheld, and the American worker is entitled to those faithfully executed laws. So what we need is we need a Congress and a Senate that's going to hold a president accountable, and we need a United States Senator from Tennessee that believes in the rule of law, understands the Constitution, and will protect the American worker.
You talked about enforcement a moment ago. I want you to listen to a soundbite here. This is Martin Villarreal. He is the city manager of Granejo, Texas, and he talks about there is no law enforcement in the city. The border agents are limited to what they can do. So in essence, they're pretty much helpless. Listen to this.
I think we would benefit more if we had local law enforcement, because, for example, if Border Patrol comes by and there's some people that are illegally here and they run into a house, Border Patrol can't go in there.
Is it time to call out the National Guard? Some people are saying, let's put some boots on the ground, let's put some troops there, let's help the Border Patrol because they are completely overwhelmed.
Well, it is past time to put the National Guard on the border, and I would say this, if Governor Rick Perry would unilaterally, and he can do this in Texas, would unilaterally put the state guard on the border. You know, there are those of us in Tennessee who would immediately call for Governor Haslam to assist Governor Perry in this initiative. And Governor Perry has the authority to do that. They've done it before, and they can do it again. And Tennesseans, I know, would be glad to assist Texas in this way. We assisted Texas once before in the liberation of the Republic from Santa Anna in the Battle of Texas, or the War of Texas. So we would be glad to do it again. And I think Governor Perry would find there are a number of states around the country that would be more than willing to assist him in this. So the answer to your question is yes.
That's a very good point, because we hear from a number of people that governors can do this, governors can do that. Are we missing a point here perhaps? And is there a power that the governors have that they are not taking advantage of at this point in order to help their states? And if they are not taking advantage of it, then people would ask why.
Well, the governors do have the authority to send their state guard to those areas of the state to protect the citizenry and the sovereignty of that state. It does get a little ticklish because the issue of immigration is solely at the purview of the federal government. But that was my point about Senator Jeff Sessions' bill, in that I fully embrace all components of that bill and think it's a great place to start. But one more provision needs to be added, and that is the tacit approval of the state governments to join the federal government in enforcing immigration laws within that state for which that state wants to comply. So the state of Texas would obviously, I believe, Governor Perry would obviously like to partner with the federal government in the enforcement of these laws, as would Tennessee.
I'll ask you a policy question with about 30 seconds to go. If indeed you were in a position of authority to do this, the president's asking for almost $4 billion for immigration reform. Would you vote for it?
We don't need to grant the president $4 billion. What we have is a failure of the president to enforce existing law. He has plenty of resources available to him to do so. It's his failure to be the chief law enforcement officer of the country that's gotten us in this position. He has all the tools available. He just needs to exercise his presidential constitutional duties.
We will leave it there, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about it more in depth. Representative Joe Carr, we thank you so much for joining us. I guarantee we'll do it again.
Thank you. Thank you kindly.
Thank you very much. It is a ticklish subject in many ways. Joe Carr is one of those out here who points out again the governors and the governor's ability to do things, but they can't just sit there and do it unilaterally in many cases. We will continue to cover this story, of course. Are the Israelis within their right to go to ground against Hamas, or should they be seeking to once again talk peace? That and more as MidPoint continues.